An open letter to White Claw Bev, Part 1, the mistrial mistress and judicial mascot of malpractice. Dear Judge Beverly Cannone, as you're now permanently branded in the annals of judicial disgrace, White Claw Bev. Let's not sugarcoat it, Bev. It's not often a sitting judge becomes the punchline of her own courtroom, but congratulations. You've made yourself the honorary mascot of prosecutorial favoritism, procedural faceplants, and judicial rot wrapped in a black robe. If bias were a bench, you'd be a whole goddamn courtroom. Before we dive into the meat and moldy potatoes of this legal catastrophe you curated, let me just say, I've seen less bias in a Yankees-Red Sox brawl, and they don't wear robes or pretend to be impartial while they're swinging for the fences. So let's talk about your performance in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts traveling circus known as the State versus Karen Reed. I would say performance, but because it's exactly what it was, theater. And like all bad off-Broadway productions, it reeked of desperation, overreacting, and the kind of script only a DA's office clinging to its own lies would greenlight. You acted more like a courtroom concierge for a gang of clumsy government actors who couldn't prosecute a parking ticket without tripping over their own exhibits. But that's what happens when the referee forgets she's not on the damn team. You had one job, and you flunked it. Your role, and I'm saying this slowly for clarity, was to ensure a fair trial, not to clear the runway for a prosecution powered by gossip, grudge, and zero physical evidence. Instead, you stood there nodding like a bobblehead in a wind tunnel while Adam Lally and his crew of legal toddlers face planted their way through a theory so weak it would make flat earthers blush. But lo and behold, every time Karen's defense team tried to press on the absurd inconsistencies, you treated them like they were asking to cross-examine the Pope. Meanwhile, the prosecution could have wheeled in a chalk outline of a dead raccoon, and you'd have nodded thoughtfully while Lolly yelled, "See, it proves she backed into him." We're talking about a taillight murder with no blood trail, no injury pattern, consistent with their fantasy, no independent witness testimony, but plenty of dirty cop group chats, digital evidence suppression, and state trooper who texted like he was auditioning for the Mean Girls Massachusetts State Police Edition. And you let them do it. Every step, every stunt, every condescending smirk from the Commonwealth, you gobbled it up like it was the gospel. It wasn't just justice. It wasn't pageantry. You weren't a neutral party, Bev. You were the pre-game show. Broken taillight, found days later, moved, mismanaged, chain of custody, anyone? Who needs it when you've got vibes and a vendetta? Text messages from Trooper Proctor mocking and demeaning Karen while calling her a bitch. Totally fine, right, Bev? Nothing says integrity of investigation like calling the defendant every name but her own. The party attendees at 34 Fairview, who lawyered up faster than you can say qualified immunity, not suspicious, no, not at all. Unless you're the woman left sobbing on the lawn trying to save a dying man. But let's talk about what really sealed it for me. Was your decision to mistrial the whole case without even asking if the jury had reached agreement on any counts. That's law school 101, Bev. That when the jury, after weeks of watching the prosecution flail like a fish on fentanyl, came back and said, "Woman, we're deadlocked," you had a choice. Ask the basic question, on what charge? Did they agree on manslaughter, leaving the scene? Did they acquit on second degree? You didn't ask because, well, you didn't want to know. Because if they had reached a not guilty on even one charge, especially the big one, your little production falls apart. The Commonwealth can't retry what's already been decided, and that, of course, would mean accountability. And we both know you don't deal in that currency. So you toss the whole damn thing like garbage. No inquiry, no attempt at charity, just one big middle finger to the defense and a golden ticket for the DA to give it another go. You didn't declare a mistrial, you performed it. You weren't there to wave evidence, you were there to spot the prosecution like a drunk cheerleader at regionals. Why didn't you ask, Bev? Were you afraid they had acquitted her on some charges? Did the Commonwealth whisper in your ear, "Hey, let's get rolling on the dice again and hope the next batch of jurors eats more lead paint as children"? Let's be real here. Lolly and company showed up like they were teaching a community college improv class of mentally deficient bobbly wobblies, not prosecuting a woman for murder. They got caught misrepresenting the timeline, playing fast and loose with search warrants, relying on a tailgate theory so flimsy it made flat earthers look like, well, they look more rigorous than that. You allowed a medical examiner to treat the cause of death like a magic 8-ball reading. You let Trooper Proctor's filth-laced messages slide like they were love notes to the Constitution. You watched the investigators ignore cell data, suppress video, skip interrogations, and lawyer up their buddies. And your response? Well, just a glazed-over stare that said, "I see nothing, I hear nothing, I prosecute nothing." And when the defense began peeling back the rot from that manipulated crime scene to the vanished surveillance footage, you clutched your pearls and swatted them down like they were asking too many questions at a mob wedding. But here's one of my favorite parts, Bev, and I say this with deep admiration for your unintentional comedic timing. It's how you managed to keep a straight face through Trooper Proctor's text scandals. You had one of your key investigators openly expressing contempt for the defendant, mocking her, calling her guilty before the trial even began, and you still let the state proceed like nothing happened. Shit, in any other jurisdiction, that's ground for a mistrial, or at least a little, "Hey, let's clean up your own house first." But you? Oh, you handed them hand sanitizer and a stage mic. Karen Reed was painted as a monster by the very same people who had more motive, more access, and more influence, but they were wearing badges. So that's the end of the story, huh, Bev? No need to ask why no one at 34 Fairview was seriously questioned. No need to examine how a man ends up face down in the snow without any kind of trauma you get from being hit by an SUV. No need to care that the woman on trial was the only one calling 911 and trying to revive the man you all claim she killed. You could have stopped it. You could have pulled the brake on a runway of train of lies, but you shoveled coal into the furnace and smiled for the camera. There's plenty more to unpack: your ruling patterns, your treatment of defense witnesses versus prosecution pets, and your uncanny ability to look the other way anytime the Commonwealth vomited out another procedural violation. Oh, I'll be watching that retrial closely, and I'll be writing about how the Commonwealth has dusted off their shame, slapped on new name tags, rebranded their prosecution as fresh like a gas station tuna sandwich, because if the Massachusetts court system insists on dragging its knuckles and this woman through the mud again, at least we can do is make sure your legacy as White Claw Bev, queen bitch of bench bias, gets the attention it deserves. And on the retrial, we're going to unpack the new dean, the old lies, the unbroken chain of cover-your-ass corruption you so graciously kept intact. Cheers to justice. May it eventually make an appearance in your courtroom sometime. Cordially disgusted, Shizzywhiznut, your official short bus conductor of judicial accountability, still rocking Velcro shoes and still asking, where the hell is Karen Reed's justice? And now, your daddy.
Time. Let's break this mother down with Shizzywhiznut.